Welcome to the comeback season, where we have real conversations about fueling your body, rebuilding strength, and stepping back into the life you were meant to live. Whether you've been caring for kids, aging parents, or just lost sight of your own needs, we see you. And this is your season to rise. Hello, my name is Nichole McLeod with Healthy Mind, Healthy Body. I'm a mindset and fitness coach and the author of I Started on a Tuesday. I know what it feels like to lose yourself in the chaos and still hold on to the hope that something better is coming.
And I'm Christy Kelsey from Christy Counts Macros, nutrition and mindset coach and food freedom advocate. I've worked with lots of women who felt stuck, restricted, and unsure where to even begin. Together, we're bringing you honest conversations, healing truths, and real strategies to help you rise again, physically, mentally, and emotionally, whether you've hit rock bottom or you're just tired of putting yourself last. This space is for you because this is your comeback season, and it starts right now.
Welcome back to the comeback season, the show where we tackle real struggles people face on the path of becoming their best selves. Today, we're talking about something deeper than vanity: hair loss. If you've ever felt that gut punch of, I don't feel like myself anymore, this episode, my friend, is for you. Hair loss can shake your confidence, your identity, and even how safe you feel in your own body. I'm sitting down with Jennifer Pauly, an integrative trichologist, to help name what you've been feeling and remind you you are not alone. Jennifer helps women connect the dots between hair, scalp, stress, hormones, and lifestyle without overwhelming or minimizing their experience. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. Let's start off by you telling everyone a little bit about yourself and how you got on this path.
Well, thanks so much, Nichole, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name's Jennifer Pauly. I am a really kind of a niche market. I'm a trichologist, which is a hair and scalp expert, but I'm also an integrative health practitioner. So basically, about 15 years ago, my father was killed in a car accident 6 weeks after I had my son, and my dermatologist told me that I would be bald by the age of 60. And that did not sit well because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I had to raise these two kids. I was having suicidal thoughts. I had some really dark moments. And we'll talk about all of that throughout this podcast. But I refuse to take going bald for an answer. And so I've dedicated the last 6 years of my life to helping women regain not only their hair, but their life and improve their quality of life by getting to not just the topical reasons, but the root of what's actually going on. Because your hair is a barometer of health. It's a way for your body to ask you what's going on, or try to tell you and flag you that something's out of balance. So let's figure out what that is.
Up until, I don't know, 4 years ago, the thought of, losing hair or that insecurity of not having hair didn't even cross my mind. And then the hair loss started and it rocked my world. Why does this feel so personal, Jen? It's just, it affects women in so many ways, our self-confidence or self-perception. Let's start off there.
Absolutely. I think we take for granted how much pressure has been placed on us in the beauty industry and what beauty standards are. There's not a lot of room for us women to be okay with taking care of ourselves. We come from an entire generation of women where you didn't take care of yourself. And so a lot of us feel like it's a vanity thing, where in fact, when it comes to the way that we appear to people and the way that we actually see other people, what we don't know is we always start from the top and we work our way down. And hair is an immediate reflection of health and a beauty standard. And so when it's thin, we feel less attractive. We look like it ages us. We lose our identity, because a lot of us who used to have a great big head of hair, I used to have pink hair, purple hair, black hair, because I was presenting myself to the world in a certain way. And that's what our hair represents. It should be a reflection of who we are. And so when it starts to get sick, when it starts to get fine and brittle, we ironically enough start to feel sick inside, sick mentally. We don't feel ourselves. We're struggling and suffering, looking for ways to figure out how to fix this issue. And so I couldn't find the support that I needed. And so what I did was I created a business that would help women specifically never have to experience what I went through.
That is incredible. I love that so much, because it's something that literally rocks you to the core. I have probably lost 80% of my hair in the last 5 years going into menopause. I used to have so much hair. It's always been fine, but I've always had like silky fine hair, and it just changed. And you're so right. It sounds dramatic. I feel embarrassed to even admit the tears that have happened, the stress, the looking at myself in the mirror, and the negative self-talk, like what I've put myself through for something that, in my opinion, I know I can control it, but at the time when it's happening and it's just cascading and it's just coming out. And I also found that the more upset I got about it, the worse it got.
Like, do you know that there's clinical data showing that over 40% of women who have cancer will refuse chemotherapy treatments because they will lose their hair? So women will actually choose death over losing their hair. That's how much of an impact hair has on a woman.
That
because
is crazy.
If you think about it, it affects intimacy. If you don't feel, I've had women who can't be intimate with their husbands because they have no hair and they just don't feel sexy. They don't feel beautiful. And so, I mean, whammo, there goes your relationship. There goes your self-esteem. There goes your, everything. Like, it's just very, very hard to deal with. And nobody talks about it.
Nobody talks about it. Isn't that true? And the constant, and it stays with you, I think, is the biggest thing. It's something that is in the back of my head all the time. If someone's taking a picture of me, I'll have to like look in a certain angle because I'm scared that, you know what I mean? Like, it's
you're sitting here, my light is shining from the roof, right?
Yeah.
And all I'm looking at, even for myself, and I'm the expert here, I'm still the human that went through it. And I'm thinking, like, can she see my scalp? Can we see this? Like, how thin is this? Like, even though that I'm the expert, I still deal with it every day, and I still have those head games. It can be really hard, but that's just it. We're always worried, well, what if the wind blows? What if I go to a concert and someone's sitting behind me and they've got that angle? It'll mess with you everywhere you go.
Everywhere. And the cascade of how it seeps into other areas of your life. Because if your confidence is shaken at that moment from your hair, you're feeling bad about yourself, your confidence that you show up for every other area of your life is gonna really struggle. So let's talk about that. What happens emotionally and mentally when women start obsessing over their hair? We kind of brought that up a bit, checking the mirrors and getting the anxiety because of it. So let's talk about that.
It's detrimental. I can speak for my own self here. I was taking down mirrors. I had suicidal thoughts, and I'm raising a daughter and a son. And so the stress just about sent me overboard, right? It's a grief. It is literally a type of grieving when you're losing your hair, because you're starting to adjust to a new identity, whether it's invited or not, right? On top of that, there's usually, like we're going to get into, there's an underlying factor. And so that too can contribute to the anxiety, to the depression, which contributes to the stress, which contributes to the hair loss. And all of a sudden we are in this huge snowball that is rolling down a hill on an incline like that. And we don't know what the hell is going on. Right. And oftentimes the doctors, they've got about 10 minutes, if that, and they're like, here's some minoxidil, call me if you have any issues. And you're like, well, that didn't even touch my hair loss. Like, what is happening? So we feel like we get abandoned by the medical system. We don't feel emotionally supported. We're losing our identity. It affects how we present ourselves at work. It affects how we present ourselves to our friends when we network. Absolutely everything. Again, with the clinical data, there are, again, clinicals showing that when a woman has a bad hair day, the whole day follows suit. So let's throw a little hair loss on that for a few months, then a few years, then a decade or two. That compounds itself in a very nasty way with women.
And you have to recognize that the more stress you have, the higher your cortisol levels. The higher your cortisol levels, the hormones are, pushed off track that much more. You're in a season of menopause or getting into that, era of your life, which in and itself has hair loss issues. So then your cortisol's high, you enter a time, and this is what's happened to me. I entered that time of life with the such high stress levels that just everything went south in my health. And it all came from, honestly, not dealing with trauma throughout the entirety of my life and just letting that build up. And it sounds silly that the hair loss was the thing that tipped me over for my confidence and wanting to give everything up. But you're walking through life with a glass full and you get a little nudge, you increase those cortisols, it's a recipe for disaster. So let's just finish off this part here talking about that a bit.
Absolutely. Menopause, there's a massive change. There's so much happening in a woman's life between the ages of 35 and 55. I mean, the hormone imbalances, our children are leaving home. A lot of us are getting a divorce. A lot of us are professional women. So we're balancing work, children, schedules, the whole thing, trying to eat a healthy, balanced diet, all of that crazy stuff. And so the vanity almost feels like we don't have time for that. But at the same time, we tend to just bury our head in the sand. We'll pull our hair back and call it a day and we'll deal with it tomorrow. But the sad thing is once we start to notice our hair loss, 50% is often already gone, especially in female pattern hair loss or androgenetic alopecia. It is a very quiet, slow, sneaky disease that all of a sudden, bang, you wake up one morning and where did all my hair go? So that will often kick in when we go through menopause because there's a huge shift in hormones. Our estrogen drops, all kinds of things are going on. Every cell in your body has an estrogen receptor and your hair is not immune to that. It is in fact a direct respondent of estrogen. So really, really important that when we do go through these things, supporting ourselves mentally, that's huge. Having a counselor, doing something physical with your body. But a lot of women really, really need to focus on HRT. We really need hormone replacement therapy. Our bodies are not meant to go through this all alone. The new clinicals, there's a ton of women that I've been following, showing all the proof and the evidence on how many benefits there are to adding estrogen into the body.
Let's actually, sorry to interrupt you there. I don't think some listeners may not know what HRT is. So let's explain that.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Hormone replacement therapy. So it can be done orally or it can be done topically with creams. There's a few different ways to do it. But what we want to do is we go into menopause, our estrogen becomes very depleted. And estrogen is also, that's why women are top rated for Alzheimer's, because our brains have an entire coating of estrogen on them, and as soon as that is depleted, our cognitive abilities are immediately decreased. And so making sure that we are doing this, because it's not doing hormone replacement therapy, because it's not just going to affect our hair, it's going to affect our cognitive ability. It's going to affect future issues, but it is also going to help sustain your hair.
The problem with hormone testing, and I found that I struggled with, and I'm still struggling with, to get exact hormone levels, is that once you don't have your period anymore, you really don't have that metric to know when your cycle.
Day 3, day 5. Right? Yes, exactly. So you want to do a spit test.
Oh, it's a spit test. Okay. I was going to say, so what can people do for that? Okay. Well, there you go. You answered my question.
It's a saliva test. So here in Saskatoon, there's 2 places that I send my patients to. One is a compounding pharmacist. So if you've got one in your neighborhood that does compounding pharmacy work, basically what you're going to do is you're going to spit into a tube 4 times in a day, your morning, mid-afternoon, and night. And so it's going to check your cortisol levels. It's going to check where progesterone, estrogen, testosterone are, where they lay throughout the day. You're exactly right. When we haven't had a period in 10, 15, 6, whatever years, how are we supposed to ballpark that? It's literally just, you go in there, you're going to pick a day. Right. And then you can go back 3 months later and redo that. But finding a person that deals with hormone testing. There's a nurse practitioner here in Saskatoon that also does it. She specifies in absolutely specifies in hormones. So that's what she does day in and day out. So it's really important that you don't just grab whatever's available. You need to find out exactly what your body's doing, because some women need progesterone, some women need estrogen, some women are completely void of all of it and they need testosterone and estrogen. So finding out your specific exact needs is key when it comes to hormone replacement 100%. Therapy.
And honestly, I work with similar things with my clients, being a fitness coach for 30 years and now getting into the neuroscience world. It's really important to stay focused on that. I want to talk about something that you brought up earlier, and that really is the social avoidance. And how many times, if you're doing your hair and you're like, this doesn't look good, forget it, I'm not going. And I've done it. I fully admit it. Just feeling so, let's talk a little bit about that. And you must at some point, some days, feeling like a counselor to your clients, because you hear all these stories and the tears come up in your office, I'm sure.
Every day, right? But that just goes to show that none of us are alone, right? Because I've been through it. I basically have been under the rug now for almost a year. I've hardly left my house. Just you can't function. And then if you don't feel beautiful and you're supposed to attend a function where you're supposed to be social, part of that is confidence. But 80% is wrapped up in your hair.
Yeah.
Why would you do it? Right? Like you'll cut yourself off at the knees. And yet at the same time, when you go out, like you're probably thinking, well, your hair's fine. There's nothing wrong with your hair.
I 100% did. I admit that.
Right? Because we are always so much harder on ourselves, right? But not only that, but nobody else has seen the decline in our hair that we have. And that's something we're going to talk about is, people, oh, your doesn't look that bad, or, oh, you should see what I've been through. All of those things, all those comparative stories that we'll get into, but, making sure that we try to do our best to try to keep our head above water. And everybody's case is going to be different. Sometimes you just can't be social. It's just not in the cards. And part of that is a big part of the healing process, part of the grieving process, right? So being really attuned into what is the underlying emotion to why I'm not going out. And trying to feel that part.
One thing I do with my clients is, talk about when they have those deep rooted emotions and where it comes from. Where does the insecurity come from? Yes, of course, looking in the mirror, I've gained weight. Yes, I'm looking in the mirror, I've lost hair. That feels bad. But a lot of the times there's an underlying reason for that insecurity and that feeling lack of something or less than you should be. And really getting to the root of that cause getting to the root of that is just so important. And I found and I don't know if you can speak to this too, but working with people in fitness and mental health, we all have our own stories, and a lot of them haven't been told, even to ourselves. So things like this that shake the foundation of self-confidence, once you start understanding what is holding you back and that mental roadblock and where the insecurities are coming from, where the stress is coming from, all of a sudden this opens up a whole new can of worms, shall I say.
Absolutely. The stories that we're told too as we grow up, the impressions that our parents give. You go out into the world, you need to look a certain way, act a certain way, behave a certain way. We all, those are the subconscious habits. And so I grew up in a house where if your face wasn't perfect, your hair wasn't perfect, there was no point in you even being there. Oh. And so a lot of us will have grown up in those types of houses where like, well, if I'm not 100% perfect, well, I'm not even going to bother. Yeah. Right. So we've got our house, we're holding ourselves to this perfectionist standard, which is not real. And let's get, it's just not, it's not right. But those subconscious messages that we were taught a lot as children, I don't know what it is about turning 50, man, but wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. And we're not alone, Jen. There's so many women our age that have these same stories and are just kind of getting to the root of their issues now. It's the beauty, I guess, of the internet. There's a lot of knowledge out there that we never had before. But you just said something that really kind of hit home to me is, when someone doesn't understand, and it almost makes it worse. Like when someone says, "Oh, it's not that bad," or what, you're like, "No, I know it is." Like, give us some tips for that, my friend.
You're going to have to ignore that. Nobody else has lived in your skin. No one else has seen the journey of your hair, not even me.
Yeah.
You know your hair better than anyone. And it is a natural human default for you tell your story, somebody's going to compare it to their own story. And people will often just say, well, it doesn't look that bad. Mm-hmm. So basically what they're doing is they're minimizing your pain, which is very isolating. Yeah. And it provides a lot of shame. We will go home thinking, well, she didn't say anything's bad, but then why do I feel so bad about it? Oh my God, she shouldn't be so worried about this. And like, why am I so concerned? And all that does is compound our grief. Yeah. And so learning, I know it sounds very elemental, but learning to just block those voices out and reminding yourself, listen, she has not been on my path. She has not walked in my shoes. Bless her. She's got her own path. Yeah. But comparison is the thief of happiness. Okay.
It really is. It
It
really
is
is.
lethal. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't compare your hair loss to my hair loss. Okay. Don't compare my hair loss to Joey's hair loss, because it's isolating. It's extremely isolating
Mhm.
and it's very stressful. So my biggest thing is just try to block out as much of the outside world as you possibly can. Understand that you are the only one that has walked in your skin for as many years as you have. You're the
Mhm.
only one that has the photographic evidence from all of the selfies, the one that's got the family photos, the one that's been through all of life, death, birth, all of it, right? Don't ever let anyone take that from you. You know your story better than anyone. And when you talk to a professional about it, it is our job to listen to that story and put it all in, but never, ever, ever to undermine how far you've come in your hair loss journey. That's for sure.
I wish that I could, sorry, one second. I wish that I could just put in my clients' heads and my friends and people that struggle with any self-confidence that the foundation of their guilt and shame is actually contributing a lot to that cortisol going up, and that
Oh,
because
yeah.
guilt and shame is the lowest possible energy field you can have. It'll disrupt. Sorry, one second.
Oh, good.
I'm just getting over a virus, so I'm talking a lot. But it'll get to that, to the root of that, and we have to understand that we all, what am I trying to say? We all struggle with that. But if we are always constantly going back to the guilt and the shame and I don't look good enough, it's going to keep us there. Whereas if we just try our hardest to bring out the love, focus on the things, and that's what I've started to do. And actually, you know what, Jennifer, you were one person that started me doing this. Ironically enough, it just came to me when we first connected after the show we met each other at. I said to you, oh my gosh, I need to talk to you. I loved your hair. I loved this. And the first thing out of your mouth is, you're the girl with the hot body, right? Or something along those lines. And I thought, isn't that interesting that here I'm attracted and looking at, oh, that she looks, like a great friend, and let's connect, and, whatever. And I love her hair. Maybe she can help me. And technically you did kind of the same thing. So only if we could love ourselves and do that to us, look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm struggling with this, but I love this, I love that, and this is going to bring my cortisols down. It's going to bring my confidence up so that I can manage it. And what happens then? Our brain's not fired up with the fear and the anger, and it's going to calm and allow us to look at things logically, which is, there's usually answers when you calm the storm.
Absolutely. And like you and I were discussing before we went live, you got to name it, right? So
Name it.
my beast that talks back to me, that's a nasty bee, her name is Beatrice, okay? And so like with my 18-year-old daughter, I tell her the same thing, and I have for years. The things that you say to yourself, would you ever say them to your best friend?
And would you still be friends with your best friend if they did talk to you like that?
Right? Like
Mm-mm.
we don't give ourselves enough credit for the damage that we do with our own thoughts. So every
Yes.
time Beatrice rears her ugly head, it's like, step off, bitch. I've got this handled. I don't need you in my hair again, because it's not getting you anywhere. Right. So making sure that we have to learn to be our own best friend. That's the thing, because you would never rip your best friend apart while her
Mm-mm.
hair was falling out. Think about that.
Yeah. And
You
yet
would
we do
never
it
do that.
so easy to ourselves.
Yes.
It's
It's too
crazy.
easy. Yeah.
It's funny. I've been a trainer for 30 years, and a couple of years, I guess a year and a half ago, I had a bit of a snowboarding accident, and I was injured for a month and a half in bed. And during that time, I couldn't train. So that's when I really started digging into the neuroscience world and cognitive behavioral therapy. And ironically, in the last year, I've helped people have success that I haven't seen happen ever. And the reason for that is I'm starting at the foundation, and that's in the nervous system, the
Not a
mindset.
girl.
And it's the same for your business. You got to start at the foundation, which is the nervous system. The nervous system is going to dictate all of your hormones. It's going to dictate your cortisol, like cortisol hormone. It's going to dictate all of that. So
Gut
if you're not
health.
doing the job, like you just said, and regulating and being mindful and acknowledging it and being aware of what you're doing to yourself, beating yourself up isn't going to get you more hair. So
No, in fact, it will contribute to more hair loss.
that's right.
So knock it
Yeah.
off. We can't do that.
Yeah. Before we end this here, I really want to talk a little bit about different hair loss. I know we're running out a little bit of time, but I want to get those different hair loss types and how you deal with each one. So let's do the top three.
Top three. Okay. First out of the gate, female pattern hair loss. It's the most common. All of you at home right now, you want to figure out if you've got it or not. One hand goes in the top of the head. One hand goes in the back. If it feels thinner on the top, you probably got female pattern hair loss. So that's very, very treatable. There's a lot of modalities on the market to help with that. Alopecia areata. That's another very, very popular one. There's many different varieties of areata, but the most common is when we see people that are missing spots. Random spots all over their head. Okay, so a lot of times that's an autoimmune condition, and a lot of times in some other clinical studies, they say there's a link between that and a vitamin D3 deficiency. Okay. And then the third one, you know what's really sad? The third one is frontal fibrosing alopecia. That's probably the most popular one that I see. And that's when we start to see women whose hairlines start to move back and the skin on their forehead gets really thin and their veins become really, really prominent. And that's a scarring type of alopecia. And that's been on the rise since the 60s. And there's no
Why?
turning back from it. We
Why?
don't know yet. They don't know yet. They can't figure it out. So one day it was it's because we're putting sunscreen on. The next day it was, because we're rubbing our foundation into our hairline. Nah. We don't actually know. And there are no clinical studies telling us exactly what's at the cause of it. It is an autoimmune condition where the body decides to attack the hair follicles, and that's it. And it will start very, very, very subtly. It can start on the hairline. It can start in your eyebrows where you least suspect it. For men, it can actually start in their beard. Okay. But eventually it can go so badly that, your hairline will actually start past your ears.
Oh,
You'll be
wow.
absolutely hairless till the ears. So those are my top three, but there's ways to control that.
I was going to say and you can work.
Yeah. So two out of the three you need to maintain for life. Okay. So androgenetic or female pattern hair loss, that's a hormonal thing. That's
Hey,
just
that's
a
me.
sensitivity.
That's exactly what I have. The top of my head is so thin and the back. Well, the whole thing's thinner than it used to be, but it definitely the top most.
So you might have what we call a little bit of diffuse alopecia areata as well, right? Because of all the stress and the inflammation within the body, all of the hair starts to get a little bit thinner. But when we're extra thin, oftentimes, especially with us women, we'll have 2, 3, sometimes 4 conditions, very rarely, but usually 2 or 3 conditions for sure. Because we're just complicated that way and nothing is gray and white. It's just the way that it is. So androgenetic alopecia and frontal fibrosing alopecia, those are things that need to be treated for a lifetime. And depending on what modality, sometimes it'll be once a month, sometimes it's once per year. But alopecia areata, that's an autoimmune condition and or / vitamin D3 deficiency. A lot of patients will bounce back on their own, no problem, like nothing ever happened. And the odd patient too, though, will have a condition where all of a sudden it just totally takes over and they've got no hair left on their body. And so that's alopecia totalis. And so that's when things have gotten really out of hand. So you have no arm hair, no armpit hair, no pubic hair. There's not a hair on your toe. There's no hair.
Wow.
So getting to the root of that is usually key. Kind of rare that happens, but it's definitely out there. But for most women, if we control some hormones, specific hormones in the scalp, we control our nutrition. A lot of women have leaky gut.
I was just going to say that. You know what changed in the 60s and 70s? Our food chain.
Chemicals.
60s and 70s is the main time frame when the chemicals started to get introduced. Look at our diets. Look at the food we eat. I have this app called Yuka where I scan a QR code of anything I put in my mouth now and it'll give it a score out of 100. And it started to make me Yuka, YUKA. And I honestly, anytime you go grocery shopping, you have your phone out, have that app up, because you would be shocked with some of the food that I had that I thought was healthy is like a 20 out of 100 and then it'll tell you what is in it and why it's making you depleted in whatever nutrient, right? But like vitamin D it's in every cell in your body. If you don't have enough vitamin D, everything's going to not work as well. your
And a
entire
lot of us in
system.
Canada are indoors
That's
for
right.
8 months out of the year,
Yep.
basically. So
Yep.
if you are not supplementing with at least 3 to 5,000 international units, depending on height and weight, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you will be depleted by the time the summer gets around. And that's why a lot of us are so much happier in the sun in the summer, because we're outside, we're replacing our vitamin D3. It takes 3 months, by the way, to get your vitamin D actually up to an optimal level once you're deficient. So we're doing great. We're probably the happiest in September. And then all of a sudden, November hits like a brick wall
Yeah.
because we've got no vitamin D3 left. Bang. We're all of a sudden in a deficient mode. So we've put our body through this,
You know what just
especially
came
in
to me?
Canada.
This is crazy. My hair loss, I do find, and I thought of this last Christmas because I've been dealing with this for about 7 years now. And I noticed that in the winter, my hair does fall out more. Interesting. Huh.
There's often shedding seasons too. You
Yeah.
know, we have spring. We're mammals at the root of it. We're all
Mhm.
mammals, right? So extra shedding, but that's really good that you're making those mental notes. As a
Mhm.
patient, I always make sure you take care of yourself. Take those photos, take those pictures that you can show a professional like me one day and say, here's what's happened over the last 2 to 3 years, right? And making those mental notes, being very cautious. Hang on a second. In the summer, I only lose about 20 to 30 hairs. In the winter, I seem to be losing 80 hairs.
Mhm.
Another way to check that, save your hairs. Okay. So in the shower, when you go to wash your hair, you get your hair ball that you roll up and you slap to the side of the wall. I want you to collect that, put it in a snack bag. You're going to date it. And you're going to do that every single day for about a month, couple, 3 times a year. You would show a professional like me that, and I'd be like, okay, this is exactly what's normal. This is exactly what is not. So we're going to put this on your chart, and moving forward, as we chart you over the next 5, 10, 20 years, I'm going to be able to predict that. So I'll be able to say, hang on a second, remember 6 years ago, you had that horrible incident happening. We can expect to probably see a little bit more of an increased shedding, this fall due to the timing, things like that. I start to create a whole lifetime chart on exactly the patterns that your hair is going to start to develop. And that way you have more education, you have more anchor, you know what to expect. And I don't think we even talked about this too, but knowing what's going on in your body, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Not knowing is like free falling off a cliff,
Mhm.
you know? So arming yourself with, you take the pictures, you make sure you've got all the data, you can chart everything, and then talking to a professional like myself, coming in to see somebody for some emotional support, but a lot of education to say, okay, well, my hair's falling out, but when's it going to end? Or
Mhm.
hang on a second, I've got a surgery coming up. Is my hair going to fall out? And if it is going to fall out, when can I expect it to fall out? And so, again, that's where I come in. Let's say, okay, you got surgery in January. You're going to expect to see a shedding probably in around the middle of March. It's going to last a
Interesting.
couple weeks, but then it'll probably go away and it'll bounce back just fine. Here's a couple things that we can do to minimize that shedding.
So
And so that's
plan
what we really
ahead.
plan ahead. Absolutely.
Does or do most of your clients have 5,000 hair products in their bathroom like I do?
One of them, absolutely. Kind of like when you
This might
open
work.
up the
This might
doors
work.
and think, yeah, it starts raining product on you. And that's panic. That's anxiety. That's
Mhm.
buying everybody snake oil because you're so scared that you'll try anything and everything. Been there, done that. That's why I do what I do, because there's so many false claims out on the internet. If you Google doc your hair loss, you've probably got cancer. You'll probably be bald by next week. Like, it can scare
Mhm.
the bejesus out of you because the
Mhm.
internet tends to take worst case scenarios, right? So it's really important to talk to somebody who's really specific in this industry. Hair loss is a niche market, but it involves your entire body. So it's really important that you get the education and the emotional support that you seek.
You know, right now I was assessing how I feel because this is my biggest pain point in life right now. And the validation actually, I think, is really helping. Like, I feel it's something that I haven't really talked about a lot. It's shook me to my core. I know that sounds dramatic, but I'm just being honest here, transparent. But it does feel better to know that there's something I can do about it, and B, that I'm definitely not alone. I knew I wasn't alone, but to the level of the how I beat myself up, I guess you could say.
Making me emotional.
It can absolutely be emotional.
It is so isolating, hair loss. It's
Yeah.
extremely isolating. And that's been my biggest thing about my own hair loss journey. That's why I talk about it all over my Instagram, my Facebook. I'll show you my bald spots because somebody needs to. God darn
Yeah.
it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not the only one. And I know that based on clinical data. I know
Mm-hmm.
that 50% of us by the age of 50 are going to have some sort of hair loss at some point in our life, whether because we have babies, whether because we have menopause, whether it just be a stress because of a life trauma.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are getting out of here really without a little bit of experience in the hair loss world. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
really important that some of us, like you, are brave enough to share their stories, take off the veil. It makes it safe for other people to share.
You've been incredible. I need you to tell everyone now how they can reach you, my friend, that they're not alone.
Well,
And yeah, where can they get a hold of you? And are you only local, or do you work with anybody, like coaching anywhere in the world kind of thing?
I have clients as far as Peru.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. All right.
So I
Take it away.
do you can reach me at saskatoonhairloss.com. My Instagram handle is at YXE Hair Loss, and on Facebook, the Jennifer McCowan. I do online coaching, I do online support. There's all kinds of modalities that I can help you with for support at home. We do testing online and everything, whether it be blood tests, stools tests, urine samples. I can get you the help that you need from wherever you're at.
That's incredible. And my friend, I can't wait to work with you because I'd be a great before and after. There's no doubt.
Oh, girl, I would love to.
Thank you so much for being here. That was very informative. And definitely, like I said, it validated a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure there's listeners that are going to feel the same. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
If today's conversation resonated with you, I want you to remember this, my friends. Your feelings, they're valid. And this struggle is very real. Hair loss doesn't define your worth or your identity. The first step in your comeback season is recognition, naming the feelings, understanding your emotional responses, and giving yourself permission to feel them fully. You're not alone. And my friends, you're not dramatic, although there's some days you may feel it. You're human. And the next step, clarity and support from experts who actually understand what you're going through. My friend, it's your season for comeback. I hope you reach out to Jen and get to the answers of your hair loss challenges. I know I will. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on the comeback season. Please remember, the conversations we share here are for informational and motivational purposes only. We are not licensed medical professionals, and this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace guidance from your doctor or your healthcare provider. Always consult your healthcare team before making changes to your nutrition, your fitness, or your mental health routines. Your health and well-being comes first, and we want you to move forward safely with the right support for your journey.